Hi everyone, welcome to Roxy's Journal of Stitchery. So this will be, I'll probably make this my second last video. I was going to make it my last, but I know I'm not going to get everything done that I want to show you in one video because it'd be too long. So today what I thought I'd do, and Rachel is going to carry on with this next week, is I'm going to show you how I'm doing my pages. I'm trying the accordion style, which is the technique that Rachel did last time and is doing this time as well, rather than my other style. So all I've got here is just some scraps of calico fabric, and it doesn't matter how big your piece is because you can always add more to it if you want to. See, it's old, you can see it's a stained one. Just looking at which way is the longest. So I am not going to perfectly measure anything. What I am going to do is to check out which is my largest block, because I'll need to make my pages big enough for my largest one. Okay, so that one's my biggest one, I think. Sorry, pussycat must have been pussycat hair. There we go. Just let me check that one. Yeah, this is my biggest block. So because all my blocks are different sizes, I'm going to show you how I will manage that. All right, so I've got my calico. And I am just going to tear it at approximately the height of my biggest block, because that is going to be the height of my pages. Okay. So just tear it. And get rid of all your strings later. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear some more strips. Oh, I've got threads everywhere. More strips in the same height. So this is the original one I tore, which will fit nicely under my largest block. So I'm going to tear some more strips. Okay, so I've got two now, and I might just see if this one will be big enough for a third. I think yes, it's going to be. So it doesn't matter how many pages you've got, you just need to have them in even numbers. That's all that you need for this to work. Odd numbers, you would have a page left over and you would need to fill it in. All right, so I'm just going to take one of the pieces. Pull off any random threads just so they don't get in your way and annoy you. Okay. So I'm going to give this a little iron with my craft iron just to flatten it down. Okay. So you need to decide what order you want your pages in. They do not have to be in the order of the prompts. You can do it in any order that you like. I'm just going to do mine based on, for me it's going to be more about how they look together and also the size. I'll explain why. Now, for you guys who have probably been smart and done all your blocks in the same size, this technique will be easy for you. Okay, so I've got my first piece ironed. What I'm going to do, I need a little flap that will end up getting stuck into my book. Sorry, just getting all tangled. Okay, so let's have a look here. So a flap about that big, because I'm going to need to glue that into my book. You can't stitch it into the hardcover book, it has to be glued. So as Rachel did, I'm using Rachel's technique. I'm ironing a crease into that flap. Okay, then I will open it up, and what will happen is that first block is going to go right in line with that crease there. So the crease will fold over. Okay, and all I'm going to do is just pin that in place. I will come back to the stitching later. I'm going to just show you how this works, and then I'll come back to the stitching. Now Rach, I know, has done her video, because she literally, as we speak, I think has got on the plane to Australia. So her video will come up for today, and she's also done next week's as well. And she's going to show you this technique again next week, her style. So I am copying her style. She is probably better at this than me, because I've never done this before. I'm doing it from memory. But Rach will show you that again. So you'll get the instructions twice with two different people. She might make more sense than me. All right, so what I'm doing, I've pinned my block down. I'm just flipping it over because I want to crease my page where the edge of the block is. Ugh, now it's just some fluff. Okay, so just getting myself a crease there. All right, so page 1 with our little flap. And now I've created a crease on the back. So this is where page 2 is going to go. So because my front one is basically, sorry, get myself a bit on screen. Because my front one is basically that size, I'm going to put one of my other blocks that's a similar size. Now this one is slightly smaller, so I'm going to show you how I deal with it when it's a little bit smaller. So that one's going to go there. I'm going to pin it, but not all the way through, so just to the layer of calico. Now today is showing you how I'm going to deal with my blocks, because they are different sizes. Now the crease is going to line up. That's my fold line there. I might just tuck that under so we can see it clearly. My crease for my page is going to line up with that crease. Do you get what I mean? Okay, and just pressing it. Okay, so if we open, there's my second page, and you can see I've got overhang for my Suffolk puff, but that's okay because it's inside the crease. And then what I thought I'd do is on this page, I thought that I would stick one of my small ones. So this is a smaller one, but it's going to go back to back with this larger one. So what I'll do is I'm going to measure with the, actually I quite like those two together. I'm going to do that one. Okay, smaller page again. So what I'll do is I'll fold it over, and because it's a smaller page, I'm going to bring my crease inwards. All right. So we'll pin that first. Hopefully you're starting to get the idea of how this comes together. So just pin that one down. Actually, just center it. Okay, Now that one's pinned in place, so as you can see here, I've run out of page, so this is where you'd attach your next page. So I'm just going to put that to the side while I iron my another piece. I think that's my spare one, sorry, this one. Okay, get all these loose threads off. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give this an iron. Flatten it out. I'll show you. Just, you can attach it any way you want. You basically just need to loosely stitch it down to the other one so that it connects and you can keep going with your pages. Okay. Couple of extra threads there. All right, so we'll bring my book back where we're up to right now. And all you need to do is, I'll open it up so we can see it. I need to attach this onto the next piece. All right, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap them a little bit. I'm going to pin them in place. And all I thought I'd do was just a really simple tack stitch up and down. So I'll just show you. Let me find just a white thread. Okay, white thread. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it in red. You won't see it when it's done, and I'm going to do it in red so that you can see. It's going to be a large tacking stitch, which is just a running stitch. You're not going to see this because your blocks will be covering it up. So I won't use that needle because that's a beading needle. I just need to thread another needle. Okay, so tacking stitch, all it is a large running stitch. It's very quick. You will not see it. Doesn't matter how big it is. It's designed to be quick. Just holding your fabric in place. Okay, it's a bit awkward doing it down on a table, but I'm trying to do it that way so you can see. Normally I'd hold it up in my hand. So very large running stitches. Okay, just trying to keep my fabric aligned at the top and bottom so that my pages run straight. Okay, I can take the needles out now. Well, not the needles, pins. Okay, and then I'm just going to come down because I've got a wide, just to show you, it's a wide seam. So I'm just going to come down the other side now. Nothing even about this, nice and quick. And my pages are now extended. can't believe Christmas is only a few days away. Still got so much to do. How many days? 4 days, Jamie's telling me. 4 days. He's counting. So not long at all. Pretty much I'm organised for it. I think I told you we're having Christmas here. So Jamie and I, we needed to get a new barbecue. We're having a Christmas barbie, which I think is a pretty common thing in Australia. A lot of people have barbies. I think I've told you this before. We have sort of the traditional Christmas kind of food, turkey, ham, etc. on Christmas Eve with Dad, and then we have our barbie. So we had to go off and get a new barbie because mine is very old and it was rusted. Haven't used it in, sorry, excuse me, probably a couple of years. So we went to our hardware store, Bunnings, for the ones in Australia, and I think New Zealand have Bunnings as well. Went to Bunnings, love Bunnings, and picked up a lovely stainless steel 4-burner barbie. It was $450, and they had it on clearance for $250 because there was damage to the box, which was nothing, no damage to the barbie, just the box. And it was also missing the screws that you needed to put the barbecue together. So they'd taken $200 off it, and I said to the guy, oh, well, this looks good. Can you tell me what screws I'm going to need to put it together? Because then I could go buy them. And he said, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, if there's someone that knows. And he said, no, he doesn't think so. And I said, well, how am I meant to know how to get what screws to get to put it together? And he said, well, that's why we've reduced it, because we don't know. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, the box is damaged and it's kind of open. So I said to him, can I open up the box and look for instructions? And he said, yes, that's fine. So we opened up the box and got the instructions, and there was the list of screws and fixtures and things that you need, nuts, bolts, that kind of thing. So there was a whole long list. So Jamie and I went around Bunnings. Took us a while to work out all the things. We're not that familiar with that kind of stuff. But there was a lot of screws that we needed. And we got all that we needed, probably for no more than $50 were all the sort of screws and attachments. And so then we got our barbie for $250 plus about $50 in screws. So a $450 barbecue for $300. Happy days. So that's what we did yesterday. And then we came home, and Jamie was determined to get the whole barbecue built yesterday. So by the time we got home, what time did we start building? 6 o'clock at night? I mean, it is light until about 8:30, but it did take us around 3 hours to put it together. But anyway, we've got a lovely new barbecue outside waiting to be used. I think we'll give it a test run tomorrow, and maybe do some barbecue for dinner tomorrow night. Juju's coming to Sydney, so we'll do a barbecue for Juju, and then tomorrow night we're picking up Rach from the airport. That's not till late. But anyway, the barbecue's ready to go, and then today we spent quite a bit of time clearing up my garden because it's literally just an overgrown mess. As you may know, we've had a lot of rain around this year, and it was just literally fully overgrown, and I had to sort out that. So this guy's pinned down. Slightly shorter page because they're smaller blocks, and then I will go to my next page. And it's quite a large one as well. Pin this one in place. That's quite thick there, just go here. So I'm just going to get maybe one more pinned in place, and then I'm going to show you what I would do to attach the pages and stitch the pages together. Okay, so that one folds over. I'm just going to make sure it's straight, line it up. Now I'm bringing this back a little bit further because I don't mind that white sticking out the book, because that's quite a big block. And my next one I'll put is this one, and that one's smaller, so it doesn't matter if I make this page a little bit smaller. So we'll iron the crease. Okay. Alright, so we've got our pages there. And then I thought I'd put my gingerbread house. Pin it down. And the other thing I need to do with my gingerbread house, sorry, just checking how well I am on screen, is I need to put my envelope. That was my feature. So once it's stitched in place, which I'll show you, I'm going to stitch that on the edge there so it opens up. Okay, so I've got to remember to do that. Whoops, bit bent under there. It's quite chunky journals, these ones, these Christmas ones. And then my other blocks pretty much I need to do some work on, so my bear block would be cute there. I like that. Let's just pin that down, even though I do have a little bit more work to do on my bear block. I'll just pin it down so I know that it's going to go next. Okay, and what I would need to do is again attach another page and just keep going. So you can keep going as long as you need. All right, looking lovely and chunky. So that one pretty much goes to the edge. So what I would do is once I've pinned it all down, I've got my creases so I know where my pages bend. I would actually open it out. And it's okay to leave a little bit of white down the middle there because that's where you'll bend your page. But where I've got blocks like this one, where there's actually some white edging around, I don't want to leave it like that. It's pretty boring, unless I put it on pretty fabric. If I had pretty fabric, I could just leave it. But this is boring calico. So I'll just quickly show you what I would do to deal with that. Moving a few things over here. I would get scraps of fabric, probably tear that up because you don't need it as thick as that. And Rach has done this before when we did our collaboration journal, so stitch swap. What I would do is, and it can go across onto two because where you bend you'd be okay. I'd literally put some scraps. This one's really big. I'd make this one smaller. It's too big. And I would just tear up bits. Just go into my scrap basket, grabbing a lot of the fabrics that I've used in my blocks, keeping with my kind of dual tones of red, green and blue. Let me see, scraps. And I literally would just be adding pieces that I would just slow stitch on them, or just do the invisible stitch to stitch them down. Okay, so that's how I deal with my white edges. I won't stitch because that's pretty straightforward. Just I do running stitch on it to stitch it down like Cantha style stitching. Okay, so using offcuts and scraps that I've had in my blocks, Christmassy fabrics, keeping it in the same colours. And then to stitch your blocks to your page, I'll just remove this. To stitch your blocks to your page, all you need to do is just basically stitch around, you could do a running stitch, you could do a few stitches through the middle if you feel like it needs to be held. Once you have stitched your pages down, then, and the fabric's filled in the white gaps, then what you'd do is you'd stitch the two pages, so this page back to that page, you'd stitch them closed at top and bottom. Okay, so they'd be secure top and bottom. All right, so then what you'd have is those two pages were stitched together, those two pages were stitched together, those two, etc. all the way to the end. That's why you need even numbers, because an even number does a page. Okay, at the end you would need to leave a flap, just like that one. So I'm not using this book. I was going to, but it's I don't want to cover all of this up and the cover, because remember that I have my cover piece. Okay, so I will be finding a book cover that's fine for me to cover up, just one that sort of is not very meaningful, and that will be glued. That will be glued down onto it, and it will wrap around, and it will go to the back once I've finished the back. So I still have a bit of work to do. Okay, also the other thing is I need to finish my blocks so I know what size spine, like that spine with those blocks would be fine, but I've actually got a lot more to add, so I need a larger spine than that. So in terms of leaving your flap, once all your pages are stitched together, you would glue that, and then you'd have your other flap and you'd glue that on the back, and that's how your book would be secured in there. And then I think Rach did this last time, but what I would then do is put a nice piece of fabric that covers that, because you don't really want to see it, a nice piece of fabric over the top. You could put a pocket, it could be your slow stitch title page, whatever you want. Okay, so I hope those instructions are clear. There were some people asking, and if you hadn't followed along originally with volume 1, you haven't seen Rachel do this technique. Now she is going to show it again next week. Her instructions may be slightly different to mine. It might be more clear to you, or maybe just watching it twice is helpful. But that's the way we're putting our pages together. If you wanted to see the way I put my other journal together, I was just trying to see if I can see it. Where is it? I don't know. Somewhere. You'd have to look at volume 1. I can't remember which episode. There's so many episodes I really can't recall. So yeah, so did a little bit more work on this, little bit of beading, little bit of embroidery, some sort of mark making, and then I did little droplets of snow in, I can't quite see it, in a white metallic thread. Looks pretty, it's kind of shiny. Anyway, that will do for today. I hope that helps you starting to get finished on your beautiful journals that you've all made. And again, we are loving seeing them on Facebook, and we look forward to seeing even more as you finish them, and certainly mine. Next week, I hope to get a bit more of my pages done. I'll come back and show you where I'm up to. I don't think I'll be ready to put it into my book yet. I've still got quite a bit of work to do. It may be a project that runs through January while I'm doing volume 3 at the same time. Anyway, thanks for watching today, and I will see you hopefully next week. I'll try and get a video recorded. We are going away on Tuesday, so I will be away, but I'll see if I can get one ready for you for next week. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.